31 minutes past midnight. The argument over the power level at which the safety test on Chernobyl's reactor number 4 can begin grows ever more serious.
Единственное, что здесь нестабильно, так это работа твоих некомпетентных людей.
The test has been demanded by Russia's atomic energy authorities and stems from the Cold War fear of being attacked that still grips the Soviet Union. A few years before, the Israeli Air Force bombed an Iraqi nuclear reactor built by the Russians. Since then, Soviet scientists have demanded tests on their reactors to see what will happen if they come under enemy attack and their power supply is knocked out. But Deputy Chief Engineer Anatoly Dyatlov is deliberately ignoring top-level advice on how the test should be done. The guidelines state that the reactor's power should be between 700 and 1,000 megawatts when the test begins. Dyatlov wants to do the test at only 200 megawatts to preserve the cooling water that stops the reactor overheating. He believes there's little risk.
Unfortunately, that night there was not a single man in the control room that he saw as his equal. There really wasn't anyone there who was as strong a character or as professionally qualified whose opinion he would respect.
Реакторы не ошибаются, ошибаются люди. Давайте за работу.
Dyatlov is not in fact an unreasonable man. Rather, he is a creature of the communist system that has raised and promoted him. He was born a fisherman's son in Siberia and ran away from home at the age of 14. He's overcome these unpromising beginnings to rise through the ranks as an engineer. He is a party man who tries to follow the rule book, but he's aware that in the nuclear industry, the rule book and reality often don't match. To get things done, shortcuts and improvisation are sometimes the only answer. Winding the power down has led to it dropping too fast.
Что там у тебя?
Ну, мощность быстро падает.
Ты что натворил, идиот? Что ты наделал? Ты же мощность упустил! У тебя же руки из задницы растут! Да помоги ты ему!
Успокойся, успокойся, не суетись. Начинаем все сначала. Успокойся.
One mile away from Chernobyl is the dormitory town of Pripyat. Everyone who lives here works at the power station. Though they don't know it, all these people's destinies will be dictated by the events unfolding in control room number 4. Among them, soundly asleep, is Nikolai Fomin, the chief engineer of Chernobyl, who left the order for the safety test to be carried out. A few hundred yards away, Natasha Yevchenko is being kept awake by her 2-year-old son, Kirill. From her window, Natasha can see the lights of the nuclear power station where her husband, engineer Sasha Yevchenko, is working a routine night shift. As he passes through the kilometer-long turbine hall, Sasha's thinking not of work, but of the upcoming May Day holidays.
There was something about that night, something unusual. For some reason, I got all dressed up. The weather was remarkable, very warm for spring. I went off to work in a terrific mood. But my wife said that all night our son Kirill was crying. She didn't sleep a wink.
Others are also awake, among them 2 fishermen. One, a Chernobyl maintenance man, casting for fish attracted by the power plant's warm waste waters. 24 minutes to 1. A new problem disturbs the concentration of the increasingly fraught operators.
Да, выключите этот вой.
Уровень воды в барабан-сепараторах опасно низкий. Давай соберись, это твоя работа.
Senior Unit Control Engineer Boris Stolyarchuk controls the flow of water through the reactor. He's all too used to alarms like this.
А что касается уровней в барабан-сепараторах, то их...
As for the water levels in the separator drones, it was always difficult to control them at low power.
Поэтому любой оператор знал об этом и был.
All the operators knew about it, so I didn't feel afraid.
Никаких
Then.
особых чувств вроде испуга я не испытывал.
22 minutes to 1. The reactor has ground to a complete halt. Dyatlov makes a fateful decision.
Ты же уронил реактор! Имбецил ты долбанный! Ну давай, поднимай мощность! Выводи регулирующие стержни! Бегом!
To raise power after 12:30, the shift actually had to pull all the control rods out of the reactor. All the control rods. This was like cocking a gun.
Control rods are the accelerator and the brakes of the nuclear reactor. Below the 50-foot reactor lid are 1,661 uranium-filled fuel rods, which descend into the reactor core. The splitting of the uranium atoms releases enormous heat from the fuel rods, which turns water into steam. The steam drives the giant turbines which generate electricity. To control this power, 211 boron control rods are spread throughout the reactor core. If they're raised, power accelerates. If they're taken out altogether, the engineers lose their ability to apply the brakes. Yet that is exactly what Dyatlov tells his men to do.
Выводи регулирующие стержни! Бегом!
Извините, Анатолий Степанович, но разве мы не должны остановить реактор? И так положено в инструкции.
Это верно, Анатолий Степанович. Это абсолютно верно. Если мы извлечем регулирующие стержни, управлять реактором нам после этого становится почти невозможно.
Как же испытания не проводить из-за таких кретинов, как вы? Испытание будет проведено сегодня! А тебе я скажу. Если ты не хочешь или не можешь выполнять приказания, я могу избавить тебя от этой необходимости. Ты меня понял?
Да.
Пошел вон! Пригуб, прими управление!
Начали. Осторожнее.
The men's revolt has failed. Tregub and Akimov power up the reactor.